And everybody, welcome back to another Song Sunday of the Chaos Commentary channel. And today, we're going to be doing something a little interesting. We're going to go a little bit heavier today, which is why I bring you Haunted Vessel Leeches. Now, I've listened to this a couple of times. First off, shout out to Haunted Vessel. Thank you so much for letting me react to this. I saw your guys' TikTok as soon as I sent you guys out the message, and I appreciate you're more than welcome to use this footage at all at any point for the reaction for your guys' TikToks. I really do appreciate it, especially with you guys being. So basically, what we're gonna do is stick with all the other ones that I have done in the past. We're gonna actually go through the song. We're gonna break it down. But this one, just because it's a little bit like, there's moments where it's gonna be a little bit hard to kind of figure out the stopping points, like where it's like there's a chorus, there's all that. I actually have the lyrics pulled up on the other side, so that way then it can help me actually through this, because there are points where I feel like I may need a little bit of help and a little bit of guidance with it. So, especially on what they're saying. Because I will say deathcore is a lot of screaming, it's a lot of thrash kind of style, so it's one where it's like, definitely lyrics will help you. But for those who don't know, hi, I'm Xander. I got a degree from Redacted University in theater and music industry with a concentration in music business. So how we're going to do this is kind of like break down some of the elements in the video, the lyrics. We're going to break down through everything, at least to my knowledge, that I can get from these from this band. They seem genuinely like great guys, and like I said, if you guys want to see more, definitely hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, leave down below in a comment which one you've liked so far as well. If you are an up-and-coming artist, feel free to message me, and I'll definitely react to your guys' song. I do really appreciate all the support and all the feedback that you guys give, and let's jump right in onto Leeches. So right away within this first kind of little bit, genuinely like pretty impressed with the style that they're going for. You hear the low kind of like droning, kind of like it's almost like a slasher kind of feel to it, where it's like you hear the killer that's about to kind of come and try to get its victim, try to drain the blood out of them, as they were to say for the slasher flicks. As well as the interesting thing too is that it's like when you hear it, it's very methodical when the lyrics land, especially for nothing is inside the shell. My mind's forever resting in the depths of hell. Um, that's kind of interesting on how it's kind of being presented, because when you're listening to it, and this is from the mix with the distortion as well as the chorus kind of feel to it, so you have the dual voicing happening, that it's just like you hear this kind of like, it's not scream, it's just very kind of like direct and very much like kind of like talking it through, similar to like when Vincent Price did his talking through with Thriller, similar to it kind of has that feeling of Magnolia Park's Animal, where it's like the really deep gravel kind of sound to it, but it's like you're kind of talking it through. It's like very kind of like, it's supposed to be like a beast, it's supposed to be like a monster is kind of like coming through. It has that monstrous kind of vocals to it, which I find is very, very interesting. As well with that, you kind of get to hear a little bit of the higher range too, of where it's like you not only get to hear kind of like the thought, like the dual kind of powers of like, okay, do you do a higher scream, do you do a lower scream? It's kind of interesting in that way, because it adds like contrast to the different vocal styles, and it's kind of interesting when they come together, because it creates this clash of dissonance, but it's a good dissonance that I don't feel like it's kind of like, it's not trying to fight against it, it's fighting with it. Chugs definitely sound pretty cool. I don't know if there's any palm muting that's going on within the guitars. It sounds like it, could be wrong. but in general, it feels heavy on the chugs and the distortion, so I like that. But moving onward, the higher kind of screams, because I'm curious to know for the lead vocalist for Haunted Vessel if you are a baritone or where you are, because I will say that like sometimes the baritones when they go high they prefer the higher end screams, or you could take like for an example with Andy Jack with their putting out for Black Veil Brides their newest song Hallelujah, because he has a deeper voice he's down lower on his screams because it's easier for his vocal cords to feel relaxed and can push out the scream through his diaphragm and not trying to strain his vocal cords themselves. But I take it you probably have had years of practice for this, which is absolutely awesome because it can toll on your voice. I've done it a couple of times, and it can really hurt you if you don't have proper technique. But anyways, going with that too, I kind of like uh, the lyrics themselves. They're not like buried, but they feel like they're not the main focus of the song. Like, okay, let me rephrase that. Um, the lyrics are a focus, but I feel like a lot of it is more focused, in my opinion, on the instrumental, just because of you're getting this heavy-heartedness to give lyrics, like kind of like a booster, of what you're explaining, especially when it comes to like I live a life that my demons have chosen, or like my heart is shattered, uh, because I all I found were the leeches, which great lyrics first off. I think that's really impressive and the visuals make it even more impressive. I will say this feels like a Slipknot kind of like visual or something from like Disturbed's Asylum kind of music video, where it's like super big jump cuts, flash cuts, with the lighting and kind of like fading in with a huge bright light kind of deal, which I find a little bit funny, but it also works to this favor. But I will say, with the guitars in the background, I hear definitely like the distortion and kind of like the chugs. But with the sound that where they kind of have, it feels very much like Mick Gordon coming in like from Doom. But it's not a bad feeling. It's one where I actually kind of respect it, and it kind of actually works really, really well because you have the heaviness of the drums, especially within the kick or the bass drum, and then you have the heavy snare and the crashes coming in. um, I would be curious as well as know kind of what kind of strings you're using for your guitars. Like if you do 7 string, if you're doing 6 string, if you got more than 7 strings, I'd be very curious because it's so gritty and so distorted, but it feels kind of like that good feeling where it's like it's almost kind of like a Lamb of God feeling where it's just like you're constantly going. You're not you're not letting up on the scream, because you know that you can sustain it for a while. So, like I said, the visuals as well, they kind of are making me feel a little uncomfortable because I will admit, sometimes I'm not a huge fan of like leeches or anything of how they look. But it's just kind of like the vibe on how it feels. It feels very asylum-y grit kind of vibe, especially with the high contrast of the green that's there with the white. And then you have the shadows as well of like the outlines of the hand and kind of making it look like they're darker than what they actually are, which is still impressive by and by. But that's kind of what I have to say about that little piece there. So moving onward. Okay, before we go on, so with that, with everyday speech, my mind is coming, I can't breathe. When something's got a hold of me, I can't feel a freaking thing. The thing when you hear him do his scream on that, oh, it's so guttural, but it's so good. It's kind of like oh, it's like Motionless in White with Cyber Hex. When you hear like after the word paradise, and then you hear like the giant black kind of come in. It's like, oh my gosh, yes. When you do stuff like that, like correctly and with technique, and you hear that, it actually for me, it kind of gives like this little tingle, like, ooh, let's go. This actually feels really good. With the visuals as well, and I hear how the drums kind of really kicked in. I wonder if the drums, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this Haunted Vessel, that there is a dual kick that you have, like the same kind of like you're using both feet to kind of create like the bass drum where you're hitting it against it multiple times. I'd be curious to know, but I feel like that's what you guys have. It's me if I'm wrong. Um, but I do like the sound of the guitar. It's very gritty. It's very metal like. I think it works really, really well for this. Especially when you see at one point, where was it in the lyrics? Something's got a hold on me. And I see in the music video that there's just like a tentacle that kind of comes out of this inky black void, and it's like, ooh, it's very Cthulhian esque, which I'm a huge fan of the Cthulhu myth. Um, Also as a Dungeon and Dragons player. Um, but yeah, it's like I said, it's just the little minute details of screaming all can impact the song in so many different ways, especially when some things are done right compared to things that are done wrong. Right now, I don't really hear any wrong. I feel like it's super clean with the vocals. Yeah, sure, you have a little bit of distortion on it just to make it sound grainier, but it sounds really good. It sounds crisp. You can hear a lot of the lyrics now that I'm comparing between the two. Like, so moving onward. Yeah, see, like those visuals are just so intricate and interesting, but they're also creepy as all hell. Um, but yeah, so like in those kinds of moments, like when you hear the phrasing of the words with the beat and it's going with like going in time, it makes the song feel more structured. It makes the song feel like it's not broken. It's not like spliced up. It feels very fluid, and it's weird and it's interesting because sometimes a lot of metal artists really need to pay attention to that, especially because you can have speed, but it's quality of it. And it feels very much like the quality is like, okay, this is drilled to a T. And that's what really, really makes a good metal song and really makes it so that way then it's like you are within your time. Like, I don't know if this is like within like 4/4 or what time signature you guys have for it and what tempo you guys have in it. I'm guessing the tempo is definitely above, probably 120, 140, definitely above that. But like I said, holy moly, like you feel it. Like, I'm not gonna lie, even just hearing it in the headphones, I feel it in my chest. And that's one big thing about metal concerts too. You know, one of those air cannons can like pull back and then you shoot it and it's like you feel like a gust of air go at you. That's what it feels like for the drums. Even though I'm hearing it, I still feel it in my chest, which is a good thing because it's kind of trying to tell you where it's like, okay, this is the beat, this is where it's at. And now it's we're going to elaborate on it and we're going to go quick and fast and have these different where we can shine and be ourselves. The lyrics are, like I said, they're really good, especially kind of like in this one, you're pulling from the idea of let me see the darker side of me. Visions that let me of myself behind. I wish I didn't have to feel this torment inside. Like, it's very asylum esque. Like, it's kind of like something that's gnawing and eating away at him, and you hear that clearly within the guitar, clearly within the drums, and even with like the mixing and mastering, like I hear it coming through both sides instead of it just being like, okay, here's the drum on this side, here's the drum on this side, and panning. Panning is basically you're splitting up the sound to hear it come from one side or the other. Because if you take off one side and it's, let's say the drums are panned to the right, you won't hear the drums, you only hear the guitar. But if you take off this one, you'll only hear the drums and not the guitar. So I appreciate it coming through both sounds, and it's very centered on the panning. So moving onward. Yeah, so first off, ugh, the feeling of just like something crawling over like that, ugh, it just feels, and I want to know, Haunted Vessel, did you purposely make this song with like this kind of music video just so that way that people can feel uncomfortable? Because I feel that right now. Holy moly. Which that also kind of brings me into my next thought, which is basically, it never leaves me. It's always lingering. It's always in my thoughts. I'm so fucking lost. You like you, clearly when you see the woman where it's just like she's just laying there and like you see all these leeches and worms crawling all over, it gives, you can hear that in the sensation too where the guitar cuts in and out for the chugs while the drum is consistent. That's the main thing that I'm seeing here, is at least there's a consistent drum throughout the entire song. whereas like the guitar is kind of emphasizing the drum and it's kind of emphasizing the feeling of the vocals because the vocals is also consistent. Um, the vocals too. I appreciated how you have the high scream and then you have the low kind of deep scream that meshes together because again, it's that balance but dissonance. And that's totally fine when dissonance is there because it's then creates tension which then creates a resolution later on. Um Although I will say I do want to also ask this question too. Was this a friend of yours that was sitting there with all the worms and leeches all over her? Because props to her for standing still if she has a fear of that. Because holy moly, I don't think I would be able to do that. Props to you on that. Also, like I said, it's kind of interesting that it's just shot with this like black and green and yellow and white because it's just like it's very muted in color, but it's one that you feel the lyrics even more because it's, even for me, it's like you're sitting there and you're getting lost in your thoughts because it's like there's things that are crawling all over you. Ooh, this just feels uncomfortable, and you feel the isolation of it along with your thoughts. Um, Even the part of like, oh, why am I alive? Like it's like you feel like you've. That's what I feel. Where it's like when I saw her, I was like, is she actually alive or is she dead? Like that's interesting. But like I said, I'm like it like it's like I feel it and it's like ooh. That's how I feel with a lot of it. But overall, like I said, chugs sound excellent. I'm curious to know if there's a bassist as well because then it's like I can hear the bass really peeking through and really shine through, especially through the chugs because you just like you hear the heaviness of the strings. So, but moving onward. Kind of similar note, like I said. So I'm gonna kind of keep this, at least this part, short, which is again vocals perfect, great job, love that. Um, Again, when I saw that girl and I just see it, and you see like the little like worm or leech like over by the eye, it's like again. I think it's like yeah, you totally hear that well, and then you hear the slight little pitching up for when you hear like the whole like my heart is shattered into pieces because all I found were the leeches, and you hear that like doo doo. It's like okay, that's kind of an interesting kind of like bending in the background. Like sometimes like with a guitar string, if you do that, you can bend it up and it'll have a different pitch sound, or you're bending it down, it'll kind of do the same as well too. Sometimes guitarists will do that just because they want to like wiggle is in terms of sometimes playing, sometimes they do it's called wiggling the string to get kind of like this vibrato-y kind of feeling. um but in general it's like wow, that's like if you ended up doing that for that, that's awesome, especially trying to play all the other notes while you're bending the string too, so that way then you can create the up pitch a little bit. Awesome. Okay, pausing really fast here just because I appreciate the kind of stepping back down for a second and letting yourself reset. For no one around knows I'm drowning. No one I know ever cared. They say it all gets better. Um but my life can't be spared. And I also was feeling like inside of the music video at that point where it's like you see the red of the deep part and then you hear the high part coming in this yellow, but it feels like you're going through like this inky void of like kind of like you're in like a sunken place almost, which is really really cool and really unique to this, which I appreciate. um but yeah, like I said, I feel like um with this song, it's like I like how you kind of took the step direction of like, okay, there's a lot of hard stuff here. Let's bring it back down so we can bring it back up to going really hard again. You're kind of giving a sense of a little bit of a reprieve before you jump back into all the crazy kind of scream and the heaviness of it all. It's kind of like you just gave us the app like you gave us the entree. Now here comes a little bit of the dessert for you, kind of deal. So I appreciate that. Um, like I said, shots look beautiful. I like the lyrics. I love the design. Even like the little points where it feels like it's kind of like old film that I saw back in the previous before I paused it. With that being said, um it's just kind of interesting to kind of see that. But said, moving on. Pausing a little bit here. Just because you kind of hear the little bit of the building, especially with the drums in the background, and it feels just like it's the drums. But I like how it when it goes, my phantom's watching, it follows me home. It's just the scream, because it feels haunting when it's just the scream, because it just feels like the mental state of like a crazed individual, and that's what it's coming off through here. At least that's what I'm feeling like it is, which is done correctly and it's done well. And it does, especially when you hear the water drop, because it's so ominous when it's just water dripping, like when you're in an isolated place and you just hear the drip, drip, drip of water. And I feel like that's what it's trying to emulate here. It follows me home. I'm just checking myself for a second because I just feel like that. I will say that it follows me home, and then you hear the breakdown, like the ending breakdown come in. Oh my gosh, that was sick. And then you just see the visuals, and it's like, oh no, 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 no. It just looks so. I hope that the stuff that was in the mouth there was just gummy worms. I swear. And then you just see the leeches come out of her eyes, or like you feel it, or you see it like circling around, and it eats her eyes. It's like, like, oh my gosh. I don't think I've had this visceral of a reaction towards anything like this at all on this channel. Holy shit. You guys are the first ones to do it. Well done to you, Haunted Vessel. So, with that being said, my overall thoughts. I think this is really well done. I like the minimal color aspects, the chugs and the distortion, everything that you guys threw at this. I think you really succeeded in a lot of notions. I think the screaming was excellent. Like, you guys did really, really well with that. I wish there was a couple moments though where it wasn't such heavy and discreet. I get that's what deathcore is and everything, but it's like, it kind of would be interesting to kind of hear like that Slipknot-esque kind of style where it's like, yeah, you hear the scream, but then all of a sudden it's just like you hear a little bit of singing, like where is it in the lyrics where it's like, I know this is gonna sound weird, but it's like, it's always in my thoughts, I'm so fucking lost. Why am I alive? Why am I a soul? I didn't feel alone. I didn't ask to have no home. Like, those four parts, like from why am I alive to I didn't ask to have no home. I think it'd be so interesting if that in that moment you just kind of died down and then you switched for a second and then you went right back into it, like into the deathcore screaming. Honestly, my favorite part is the ending, because you hear like the soft "It Follows Me," like the first scream of "It Follows Me Home," then you hear the "It Follows Me Home," and you give that beat for a second there of "It Follows Me," and then you have "Home," and it just like "Home" comes in with that breakdown. Oh my gosh, it sounds so cool. Like I said, with the visuals, holy shit! Like, I don't think I will be able to sleep as much, but we'll see. I'll have something playing nice in the background, hopefully. But first off, to give my overall score rating of this, then, I would honestly say I'd give this probably about like an 8.5 out of 10. Like, again, in terms of metal, I like the symphonic metal. I like a lot. Like I like there's some bit of singing in there, but that's just me, and that's my subjective opinion. But I understand this is deathcore, and deathcore has a different tone to it. So if I was rating it on a deathcore scale, I would honestly say for me I'd bump it up to a 9, just because the visuals again, absolutely like wow, those are shocking visuals to me and just make you feel uncomfortable. But like I said, well done, Haunted Vessel. You guys, awesome. And I really appreciate you guys letting me react to this and taking, get this. Definitely go check them out in the description. All socials for that will be linked down below in the description for the TikTok, to this song, to their YouTube channel. Like, I can't wait. If you guys are heading out live and you guys are coming around Chicago, definitely hit that up because I'd be curious to see how you guys do this live. So, like I said, well done. Keep up the amazing work.
Thank you guys so much for watching another Chaos Commentary video. I hope you guys did enjoy that. If you guys want to see any other kind of topics discussed, like music or movies or anything like that, please let me know down in the comments below. And definitely subscribe to join the Chaos Army. And until then, I'll see you guys in the next one. Remember, let the chaos reign, my friends. Peace out.
It's